All Biggie's astropaths could hardly get me back home. It is so foggy outside.
Dude, right? Like, it was thick as pea soup this morning, and I don't even eat pea soup.
It is hand in front of your face type stuff. So everybody rate and review and leave 5 stars because your boy's putting it on the line to bring you this 40K entertainment. Welcome. I am Shane. That is Casey.
You fellas across the pond are probably used to weather like that.
Every day, and they got those narrow roads. Like, I don't know, that the rate of head-on collision has got to be startling.
That's why they drive on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's a stupid joke. That was a terrible joke.
You must zig when others zag. It makes as much sense as anything else we ever say. We have a packed show for you today. Whenever you're listening to this, it's nighttime where we are as we record. LVO has just happened, and we've got an analysis from a special guest of the winning list. It was Necrons. That was as much as I knew until our talk with the homie Lane about it. We also had a lot of LVO reveals, but before we get into any of that, we've got to open up the bits box and talk about what we have done in the hobby this week. Crank it open. Casey, I've been hobbying my took us off.
Boy, yes, you have.
But let's start with you. What have you done? What have you done?
I have unleashed the boss, the big boy, the green tide upon the world of Armageddon. Boss Snickrot is finished, and final pictures are up on our Whip Wednesday on the X page.
I have comments about Boss Snickrot. I gave them to you before we started in the show, before the show, where we try to talk about as little as possible so that we have stuff to bring you. However, it's packed today, so we went ahead and did it. It is so far and away the strongest model you've ever done that I think you need to go back and touch up some of your other characters because they look like a whole nother person painted them.
They do, admittedly, but to be fair, he is an epic hero with a name, and they're just insert character to model.
I don't know why you're defending your old boys. Maybe it's because you love them and you hold them close to your bosom, but he has got, like, where to start. First
you
of all,
got to remember where you came from, Shane.
I guess so, but man, he's got layered up skin that makes him look dynamic and readable from a distance, and the blends hold up close. He's got leather that is done to the highest standard I've ever seen you do. He's got a neat base. The whole paint job is as neat as you ever do. And then you went non-metallic metal all over the place and even did different metals.
Yeah, I finally learned how to do copper and bronze.
Meanwhile, the rest of your army is flat. They look flat. And
so is your mom.
That's right. The thing is, the reason why I am hating on the old bunch of your army and loving on Boss Snickrot so hard is because a lot of people think that you are what you are. And you were proof that that's not the case. You can get better. And the level up is so huge between that dude and the rest of those orcs, because some of those orcs are the very first things you ever painted too, which creates this wild evolution. Like, you know what you should do for the people on X and Instagram is do a timeline, right? Like a slideshow.
I thought about that
of like the first orc, and then get to the middle orcs.
Which you've seen my first orc from high school. Over here.
It'll be great. It will be great because again, I think people find that encouraging because there's a lot of people running around, especially the speed painting only squad, to think, I got to get them done fast. I got to get my army painted fast so that I can get 10 points in the next RTT, right? Those guys, you can get better. You can do better. And it's an incredible improvement. And I hope to be able to have such a...
I don't want to run that gray plastic army. And the thing you will definitely see on horde armies, particularly orc armies, you're going to see a lot of gray plastic. Comments I get very often, even in the last tournament we were in, was, wow, a fully painted orc army.
There's no other way.
Yeah, you have to. Sometimes you just got to quick and dirty, baby.
We're bougie. We're so bougie. We can't even help ourselves. Myself, I have been all over the place in hobbying lately.
So you going into your bits box now?
I am.
Okay.
Do you have more?
I worked on a big mech in Mega Armor. It does not look like my Mega Armored Knobs, my Mega Knobs, are ever going to get here. So he might not see time in our next tournament, which is early February.
Yeah, I'm in it.
And it's going to be great.
We may come up against one another, brother versus brother.
That'd be fun. We need some practice though.
I do. I want to get a game in tomorrow. I'm trying to book one.
100%.
I have got.
But yeah, go into yours.
I've got the I Am the Law Judge Dredd miniature game from Warlord Games that came in.
The whips look good.
And I've also created a monster. Shout out to the homie Valerie. She loves Star Wars Shatterpoint.
She's getting into wargaming, huh?
Oh my gosh. Now, she's making me. I'm painting all of these Star Wars things because they're characters. And
I was about to say, she's not making you.
I want them beautiful, right? But she's like, she said, I have to have Count Dooku. He does cool stuff. I have to have him. So we went out and got Count Dooku, built him, got him done. And then we were watching the Clone Wars cartoon, and she saw Aura Singh, the bounty hunter.
Yes,
and
Aura Singh.
And she said, I have to have her and Cad Bane. So today I went and got those guys. And then she decided she needed General Grievous because she likes the bad guys. So now we've got General Grievous.
General Grievous is like huge. It's awesome.
I'm so behind now. All of a sudden, your boy has got a pile of shame that must be dealt with. A pile of shame, and man, the orders are in. I still haven't even built Cypher, because then we flip over to the Judge Dredd side, and let me tell you, these Judge Dredd miniatures from Warlord Games, they're a proprietary resin from Warlord, and they are so soft, like they're just a little bit tougher than pencil eraser, I swear. But is the detail super sharp? No. Do they look all chunky? Yes. Does that make sense for Judge Dredd? Absolutely. I've done a thing on the judges that I have never done before, but that I did experiment with, and I will explain it briefly. The judges wear black to navy blue unitards, right? And then they've got all their metal, ridiculous shoulder pads and their badge chained to their zipper and all this kind of nonsense. But I didn't want to just paint them black, and I didn't want to just paint them dark blue. So what I did is I primed them black, zenithalled white, but I zenithalled white very specifically so that I could get fades over the tops of the shoulders and on their butts and on the tops of their legs, so that I could then mix myself a dark blue ink and spray them again like I did on the Shatterpoint terrain, if you guys recall from a few episodes back when we talked about doing terrain. And so I've got these smooth gradients of like, is it black or is it dark navy blue? And then once you put all their other stuff on, because they look terrible once you do that, right? Because it gets all over their face, their hair, everywhere. It looks horrible. But then once you do their belts and their gloves and their shoulder pads and elbow pads and their boots, it just looks like what you mean it to look like. And I've been really proud of that. I think that the spraying inks through the airbrush is the next frontier for me. And at some point, I'm going to have to try to figure out just even the most basic non-metallic metal, but one thing at a time, as they say.
I've come across some pretty good hacks. Just saying. I
need them because my metal game is very much. It's got to be flaky. It's got to have flakes in it. So another thing, the painting of the judges.
Just one more thing over there, Columbo.
Just one more thing. The painting of the judges and the painting of the Shatterpoint figures I have found to be very, very taxing because I'm going full ball sack. I'm trying to make them look as good as possible. However, in the Judge Dredd game, there are also a bunch of gangers, and they look ridiculous, and they're meant to look ridiculous. And what we've been doing, because as I talked about in the last pod, Valerie is learning to paint, so we've both been taking a ganger or two and knocking them out slap chop style with contrast paints. So she's just straight slap chopping.
I thought that looked like slap chop on that one.
Yep. So she's doing straight slap chop, which is teaching her how to just put the paint in the right spots, right?
Probably brush control, yeah.
Brush control. I'm doing a mix of the two, so when I'm painting one of those gangers, I'm just like, I'm gonna get them done in like an hour, and I'm not gonna do anything fancy unless I'm just sort of moved by the spirit. You know what I'm saying? So I did a guy. He's on X in our Whip Wednesday post. He's got these ridiculous green and yellow pants, and they're loud and silly. But if you look up at the top of him, he's also wearing an orange shirt that looks ridiculous. I did a full-on... He's like a real jacked buff dude. So I did a full-on 3-layer pass and a glaze to lock it in of all his muscles and skin. And I think that I started playing with that to learn how to do faces better, but he gave me the opportunity to do it in sort of bigger spots, and I think that there was a lot learned there, and I think he looks really good.
He reminds me of a Psycho from Borderlands.
Oh, totally.
Love
totally.
Borderlands.
He's got some ridiculous sort of face mask helmet thing on. They're so stupid looking, and in contrast to the judges,
I actually like the mask.
Yeah, I do too. But
pants are weird.
The pants are super weird. But in contrast to the judges, and in contrast to the Shatterpoint stuff that I've been painting, and even Valerie's demons, Slanesh demons that we've been working on, those guys are such a nice palette cleanser, and it just reinforces my theory that you always need a second project in the works, because it's just such a burnout type thing. If you're just going hard or you're just doing batch painting, you have to be able to flip-flop. At least I do.
All I need is a palette cleanser bottle.
That's what you need. That's my bits box.
That's your bits box. Closing it.
Shutting it. Sound effects, as always, provided by Casey. The main
Shane, what are we talking about today?
The main topic today is LVO reveals, and later in the show, at the end, we're going to tag on the interview that I did with Lane about and analyzing the list of the winner. So,
where would you like to start, Shane?
you tell me what all has come out.
Okay.
The Dark Angels Codex supplement is kind of a big one.
It is super duper big. Lots of cool stuff came out. Reveals upon reveals. So much so that we did a video about it, or a pod about that whole thing last week. As far as we see on the Deathwing, we've got Dark Angels Codex coming out with that new Crusade stuff coming out. It all comes out this spring with the Dark Angels Codex. So you're gonna have to, if all you Dark Angels players are gonna have to buy like a what would you say, like a $200 box?
Yeah, I mean you could if you want. I mean the thing is, those guys, what are they? The Inner Circle guys are brand new.
Love those Inner Circle.
Your Deathwing Knights, your Deathwing Terminators, your old Asmodai. Is it Asmodai? Or
I don't think he's in it, but
yeah, who was the other guy that's in it? I can't remember. Belial.
Man, you have a hard time remembering
I do.
his name.
I keep wanting to call him Asmodai, but there is a new Asmodai. But you could run all your old stuff. The thing that we learned, which by the way, that codex I think comes out this weekend or next. It's here, and it is a supplement. It is only 3 detachments, so I have more info on that. You're still going to have your army rule of the Oath of Moment from the Space Marine Codex. So, if you have no Space Marine army and you want to have a Dark Angels army, you now are going to have to buy the Space Marine Codex and the Dark Angel supplement. And what that's going to give you is 3 additional detachments. One of them is the Raven Wing for all your bikes on bikes on bikes. The other is for your Oops All Terminators. And then the third one, I can't quite remember. I think it's all the green guys.
Deathwing, Dark Angels, and then Ravenwing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a little bit of controversy about one of those detachments doesn't make you use Dark Angels specific guys. And some of the rules are quite powerful. And
that's true.
What is being bandied about is that there will be a lot of Space Marine players with not a Dark Angel 1 that are going to be using those rules to make some cheese out of the, out of the snow.
Well, supposedly that's why they made this new system. Don't have to paint it up to be right, but you can play it as long as you say it is.
Yeah, that's true. But also, like, the models in an army, in the case of these, other chapters, like, the Dark Angels rules are meant to leverage and level up the Dark Angel specific models because they need that leg up because they're not an entire Astartes army. They don't have the whole. They're not Ultramarines with literally every tool in the box, right?
Yeah.
And so, if you're just a regular old Ultramarine army, your Terminators don't need that help, because you've got other stuff that helps. But you're gonna be able, unless this gets FAQ'd, errated, etc., to just be like, you know what, I'll have that too, and that's a bit cheesy, and bad form on you guys for trying too hard, I feel like. Let's talk about, very quickly, to not get hung up on Codex Dark Angels supplement, the Crusade books that are coming out.
They look cool.
They look super cool, and I'm super interested in it. I never have been before with the narrative campaign stuff until I got this Judge Dredd thing. Because it's a real beer and pretzels kind of game. Like, if you're having a competition playing that, you're really just trying to donate $10 to something and feel bad if that matters to you. But it's really meant to have these campaigns, and that makes me want to do a 40K one real bad.
We've been saying it forever.
I want to do it. I can't believe I left this out of my bits box. I'll save it for next week. I'll save it for next week. Never mind. I'll save it for next week.
He needs terrain, people.
I need terrain. Don't forget, guys. Shout out. I made a call last week for terrain, and none of you guys have sent me any presents. So, Christmas in July, maybe Valentine's Day. I'd appreciate it. Anyway, however, this campaign book is from Nephilim, when the Space Marines were fighting the Necrons, isn't it?
No.
I thought it was the Nephilim Wars, not the Leviathan Wars.
We're in the Pariah Nexus.
Yeah, Pariah Nexus.
Yeah.
But isn't that Necron stuff?
Yeah.
So, that seems a bit incongruous. Do you think they meant to have 9th edition go a bit longer?
And
then they bailed out of it, but they still had this written?
But the lore changed, so they had to do stuff. I wouldn't doubt it. And, they'll do anything to sell models.
Well, and they'll do anything to sell books. Like, if they had had a final narrative campaign ready to go. Yeah. But if they had a final narrative campaign ready to go at the end of 9th for Necrons, because 9th started with the Necrons, then they're like, forget it. Let's just go to 10th. 10th is ready. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Then they're not the type of company to scrap all that, even though they started with Leviathan. And I guess there's a Leviathan Crusade book as is. So I don't know. I don't know what to think. What do you think of that detail?
I think it's a lot of waste of paper. I tell you, I go to my games, my games friendly local hobby store shop all the time, and I see all these books. You remember the Caradon book, and then you've got the Nephilim and all that stuff. All these books just sitting on a shelf, not getting bought, and I'm just like, man, it feels like we only played those for like a couple months, not even a whole year.
Well, you and I did, because we were too new.
Yeah.
So that was the thing about the 10th edition Great Reset, right? And the indexing was that when I came in, it was pre-Arcs of Omen, and I don't think I got but one solitary game. Mm-hmm. In fact, I don't think I got a single game in before Arcs of Omen came out.
Yep.
Then I was able to build a list.
You were mainly just Arcs of Omen.
Yeah. But man, trying to work out those detachment requirements and stuff was tough. And my army wasn't painted in time to play Nephilim, and so I ended up starting in Arcs of Omen. But man, I mean, I'm pretty handy on some crunchy complication.
So,
and 9th edition was crunchy and complicated. So,
yes, it was.
Here's the thing. I say all that to say,
fun.
Yeah, I say all that to say most of those books that you mentioned are being offered usually by local game stores at a steep discount. And man, you can go play some ninth edition if you want. It still exists. We still have models that are valid. We can go bust out our
Yep.
Arcs of Omen. We could bust out our ninth edition codexes.
100%.
But why would you want to? You remember how much stuff you had to just print out to keep track of your army rules?
Oh gosh, all the rules and stuff. You remember how fast I used to play, and it was like I was talking 100 miles a minute. Gosh.
Remember when we had to define to one another what our version of Deep Strike was because
That was weird, yeah.
It was called something different.
Speaking of Deep Strike.
Yeah. Well, and now we know that's what was happening, except you and I were both fairly new in ninth edition, and we didn't realize that whatever the heck it's called is just same as mine thing. My thing was called, like, what? Teleport something, and yours was, yada yada, and all it meant was Deep Strike.
We've harped on it before.
We have harped on it before, but what else was revealed?
We had a lot of models get revealed.
Bunch of models.
Bunch of models. New stuff for the kill teams. We've talked about them before. Night Lords.
Yeah, and the Night Lords are going to come with a Drukhari thing.
Yes, they're going to be fighting against the Drukhari. You get Kill Team Nightmare Box.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nemesis Claw Warband of the Night Lords takes on a bunch of Mandrake Drukhari, which are the Dark Eldar. Didn't expect Dark Eldar. I really didn't. Because we've seen the Night Lords revealed a little bit before this. And then it's like, okay, that's a kill team where they go up against, and then Dark Eldar. It's kind of like bad guy versus bad guy.
Yeah. Well, the Dark Eldar have been out before because they did they did what? I mean, they've done the Scorpions in the first one, which those are regular
Eldar.
Those are Eldar, and they've done the Corsairs before, which are Eldar, and then they did the Drukhari version of the Corsairs, where you had a Corsair kill team. And a guy had a bird, and a guy had a wand, and a guy had a couple of daggers, and it was just, evil version of those Corsairs that came in the Nakmun box. And now we've got a different form. We've got kind of a different product with this season of Kill Team, where your two boxes, what they seem to be doing is the terrain is separate, and your boxes just include two kill teams. And rules, and also the kill teams that are coming out so far are stuff you need for 40K.
Yeah, you can totally play that stuff in 40K. I love that.
Well, I mean, like those what are they called? The Drukhari things?
Mandrakes.
The Mandrakes. Apparently, you can't even buy the old models, and you needed 5 to 10, but they came in a box of 8, I think. I was listening to Shout Out Jay at Eons of Battle was talking about this and how it didn't make a lot of sense. And so now, you got the not quite Space Marines in the first box because you need them, the Scouts.
The Scouts.
Because you need them for 40K.
The new Primaris Scouts.
Yeah.
But debatably, the Scouts were the ugliest models ever made in the 40K range before that.
Oh, sure, but I think it's interesting that it's almost like Kill Team. I mean, I know because I like to play it, and it's hard to get people to play it. It's like it just doesn't have a lot of traction for reasons that I can't figure out. But these boxes are definitely going to sell more because they're not just bespoke kill teams. And I think that the kill team itself is suffering because it doesn't look like, in the case of the Mandrakes, that there's a lot of variety in that kill team.
Yeah.
The Night Lords, however, that's just tons of weapon options, and that's going to be so fun in kill team and in big 40K because your WYSIWYG can just go nuts.
Yeah. We also had the Kroot models come out. You don't know what that is, do you?
I know a bit about the Kroot. The Kroot are the mercenary band of cannon fodder that the Tau employ when they need somebody to go and hit something with a stick.
Yes, Tower bad at melee, so they employ the Kroot. These models are a very needed update on some older models. You get some Kroot. So we saw the reveals of some Kroot. We saw their box, but we didn't get too many individual shots. The Kroot Rampager, which I guess is like a Kroot version of the Squighog boys, basically. Just some boys riding on a couple of big Krootoks, going nuts in a hunting pack. So Man, they look good though. I would paint those.
They look super good. They also revealed that in the Tau Codex, which is coming out
Yes,
fairly
new Tau
soon,
Codex gonna be coming out soon.
they've got a detachment in there for Oops All Kroot.
Ooh,
So you can run a whole Kroot army, which I think is really nice.
That's pretty cool.
And also,
I might consider that now.
I do not know what the greater Tau
What the greater
fandom is, but in our local sort of chats and community, there is no love for the Kroot. And
Well-
I am interested to see how salty the Tau people are going to be when their 6 detachments, if they get 6, because let's not forget, AdMech only got 5. If one of those is Kroot, and they're like, I don't want no Kroot.
Now, don't get me wrong. I was super stoked that they revealed Kroot. But when I was watching and I was like, oh, sweet, 40K, new models. Let's see what we got. And then it's like, here's a faction no one likes.
Well, so here's
Tau models?
here's the
Thanks,
thing.
I guess.
Here's the thing. Plenty of people like Tau, okay?
No, they don't.
Your boy Shane, least favorite 40K faction.
Really? Well, yeah.
I would take AdMech first. First of all, I would like it put on the record that I am anti-communist.
You know, I like them more than Eldar. I freaking hate Eldar.
I can live with Eldar. But the Kroot, one, they're mercenaries, which seems antithetical to the Tau's communist, greater good, socialist ways, right? Except these guys are...
And they're cannibals.
Yeah. Yeah. I can mess with some Kroot. I'm not going to get a Kroot army, but I will... I am interested to see one.
We also had a lot of reveals for the Horus Heresy. Man, a lot. Like new tanks, new tank stuff. Did you see that little Sentinel Walker precursor model that they did?
Well, it's an entire new faction.
Goofy.
It's an entire new faction for Horus Heresy because it's the Guard.
Yeah, it's
the
like,
Heresy era Guard, and man, they look good. They got a lot of little bits and gubbins on their tanks, though, man.
So much.
I think that's going to wear you out.
Wow.
Can I just comment, because we're running out of time? And we've got Lane's segment with the LVO winning list. It seems, because there were other reveals as well. There were things for Underworld
War
that
Cry,
looked incredible.
Underworld, Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, and
Death Gorge, yeah.
if you go and look, it's a lot of busy model, and it's a lot of like smooth, good pose model. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of an A or B. I haven't seen any new models that are meh. I haven't.
That's fair.
And also, mono pose is here to stay. You know, every single model kit, you're going to have a hard time getting those guys to, point an arm a different direction. That's just the way that it's going, and which is good because they look great and they look dynamic. But they've got, I'm looking at this from a painting perspective because that's what I've been doing a lot of and what I do like to do. Man, you've got models that are a form job, and if you like the form and the lines and the sort of sculpture aspect of your model / painting of a model, and then the other side is for people that like to paint a lot of little stuff.
Me.
Man, I'm looking at you, Cities of Sigmar. And I'm looking at you, whatever the heck that Warcry band was, or maybe it was the Underworld band.
A lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, they're
probably Flesh Eater Chords.
Well, Flesh Eater Chord, I feel, are another one that's a form thing because they're just green and they don't have a whole lot of stuff. But man, you go look at those Cities of Sigmar models and the like, and they're just so busy. They're layers of clothes. There's a ton of pockets, pouches, jewelry, stuff, and man, they're giving you both flavors. If you like to paint a lot of stuff, they got stuff, and if you like, your big flowy things, then the Kroot are for you.
I want to remind everybody before we take off, check out our channels, YouTube, X, TikTok, all of it. Like and subscribe, and me and Shane will give you a random subscriber, a Chaos Space Marine from the McFarlane range.
Yeah, that is a giveaway. Under no circumstances are we going to ask for anything of yours.
Yes.
Except where to send the thing if you are picked, and you will know it's us quite clearly. But if you go and subscribe to us at all the various places. We're going to pick somebody at random from one of those places.
Yes.
So the more things you're subscribed to, the more chances you have to win.
Find out on X on the 31st of January, or find out February 2nd when the pod drops. So,
And now we will cut here, bid you good evening, and I'll send it to a pre-recorded segment that I did with Lane at his house, which is the first thing I say. So it'll be a strange edit. We don't know how to do these interview segments yet.
enjoy.
I'm in Lane Wolf's kitchen and the homie Dallas's kitchen, and we're going to talk about the winning LVO list from the Las Vegas Open. It was Necrons, and that is as much as I know. But before we do that, we need Lane's bona fides for why you should listen to anything he does, and I would say the most vital one is that he's more into the playing than the painting or the collecting or anything else. Would you say that's the case?
I would, yeah. Definitely probably play above all, but I do enjoy the building, not so much the painting.
You're my go-to opponent for the Marvel Crisis Protocol, and one time I think you've played with a fully painted set of dudes.
Yeah, I think I have one roster that is even capable of being fully painted.
However, I have yet to win. And despite my continual head kicking, I keep coming back for more abuse.
And it's always a great time. I love to play.
And so you've got the list. Now, who is it that won? What's the guy's name? Did we know?
Ooh, I should know, but in this list it doesn't say it on here.
That would have been a good thing to look up. So the guy that won LVO, look that up yourself. But we've got his Necron list.
Right.
And you're going to tell us how that worked. This is going to be some crunchy list analysis, we hope.
We hope. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm not the most knowledgeable in Necrons. However, I am roommates with somebody who is. And we've talked a little bit about it, and I've heard him, gush about how Necrons are awesome. Dallas, he did win an RTT about a week or two ago, so he's loving his Necrons right now. But
and it's typical Games Workshop Codex creep on display that the most recent one would have some broken stuff. It is
interesting though that they came out the same time as AdMech, but AdMech is doing so terribly that AdMech got almost no love.
The AdMech seemed like they had a different set of people making it, because it doesn't. Those detachments don't seem to have as much sort of similar flavors as the other codexes that we've seen so far.
Right, and they even went back on their everybody's going to get 6 detachments. AdMech only got 5.
Yeah. Well, I've said in a previous pod that I don't think AdMech should even be a faction of their own. I think they should be stuff that you splash in, like the Assassins and like the, just that kind of stuff that gets added into the rest of the Imperium.
Right.
I don't think it makes sense that the little priests from Mars should be fielding entire armies.
Yeah, that's definitely something I hadn't really thought about, but I'm not super into the lore either. So I'm not super knowledgeable on the whole creation of Imperium weapons or whatever.
So this was what detachment did this guy use?
So I'm not positive on the name. I think it's this Hypercrypt Legion. I think that's the name of the detachment, but it's the one that is based around the monolith.
No, so that's the one that teleports everybody.
Yep.
So it's the Grey Knight's version of Necrons.
Yep.
Because I thought the broken one was the one with the power fields.
So, and it was until last week's FAQ. That was the one that was giving the Immortals all those dev wounds. And they FAQ'd it to where the Immortals lost the keyword that allowed them to use that stratagem. So the Immortal Blobs, which you would run 30 Immortals, which is how Dallas won that RTT, that went away. So you can't use that detachment anymore. Okay. And that detachment and this one were the 2 detachments that people were running. But now it's just this one.
Right, and this one, for those of you that don't know, lets you teleport your Necrons all around the board.
Right, including those big, beefy Catan that are way undercosted.
Right, because I played against a guy that had a few Catan, and I accidentally played the Void Dragon as -1 to wound because I misunderstood some stuff, so I cheated on myself and got my head kicked in. I imagine that the key in that game, in addition to me cheating against myself, was that they've got a stratagem that lets you jump in 3 inches away from stuff and wreck face.
Right. So your Catan can be pretty much anywhere on the board, and then you're like, oh, my monolith's in danger, or I need to be wherever the monolith is, which is probably in the middle of the board, and you can just teleport it. Teleport your big, beefy guys that hit harder than a bloodthirster, just right into where the action is.
So what all did he have? Did he have something like multiple monoliths or what?
So he only had the one monolith. It's 350 points, so it's probably all you really need. But those monoliths, for the stratagems for this detachment, require a monolith or an obelisk, but the monolith is the good one. So he had 2 chronomancers. He had, looks like 2 Catan. He had the Shard of the Nightbringer and the Shard of the Void Dragon. The Void Dragon, that's the one that it's 270 points, and he heals anytime he kills a vehicle, and he has a anti-vehicle 2-up spear.
Right. And the other one is the Grim Reaper looking guy.
Yeah, I think so.
And I learned the hard way that dude absolutely slaps.
Yeah.
Hard.
And for less than 300 points apiece, they're just ridiculous.
Now, you can take multiple, can't you? Or no?
Not of these, no. Because they're like the epic heroes, I guess.
Right.
But he had a lot of characters. He said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 characters.
Man, that's got to be nearly every character in the Necron Codex, isn't it? Or is it a lot of overlords?
He has 2 chronomancers. But that's it. He doubled up on chronomancers. He's got a Illuminor Ceres. I don't really know how to say that.
Matt Laura is the guy that won. That's Lorah.
Cool. Yeah, I probably should look that up.
That won the entirety of LVO.
Yeah, undefeated. Really impressive. He beat, Eldar was the final matchup. Eldar has been top of the meta really since 10th came out. It hasn't really been close. There's been people that, factions that rose and fall, but Eldar's been up there the entire time. So it in a sense it is good to see somebody else win LVO after half a year of just Eldar domination. Yeah. He did still run those Immortals because the Immortals are still really good, even if they aren't doing all this Dev Wound cheese.
Yeah, so I guess the way this works is you set you warp your monolith into the middle of the table. You send your Catans out to destroy valuable units as early as possible with the deep strike and the close and the close stratagem that lets them jump right on the top of their head. And then you just once the Void Dragons killed all their tanks, now you can just wait on the point because they don't have anything to deal with your blobs of reanimating stuff.
Right, because the reanimation is still key for Necrons. It's just hard to kill their stuff.
Now, the reanimation got nerfed in some kind of way, didn't it?
It did. It's not as...
You can't do it multiple times per turn. Wasn't that the thing that you could catch a reanimation here and there and somewhere else?
Yeah, I think there was a stratagem that you could use to reanimate early. And you also lost out on, what are they called? Those little dudes that you would add to the unit to give the Crypto Thralls. They're not as powerful anymore. You're not even seeing warrior blobs anymore. It's all Immortals. And here he's still got the 2 things of Scarab Swarms, 40 points apiece for that OC0, just action dudes. And he's got a bunch of Locust Destroyers, 3 of them, with those Gauss cannons for those big shooty stuff, and some death marks. But that's pretty much it. So, basically, my understanding of what you do is just get on a point, don't die, and kill all the stuff that could possibly kill your stuff.
Which is where the deep striking Grey Knight type stuff and the Catan shards just go nuts.
Right.
So, do we think that these LVO results are going to directly correlate to an incoming patch, we'll call it, errata FAQ thing?
So I'm not positive. I think the jury's still out on that because this data slate should be coming out as time of recording tomorrow.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. This data slate should be. It's supposed to come out this month, and traditionally they always release these data slates on Thursdays. Tomorrow is the last Thursday of the month, so we'll see if they do that. Depending on how quickly they can turn this stuff around and how much, I don't know how much play testing they do at GW. I'd guess not enough. They might push that back to like next week or maybe early February. I'm hoping it comes out sooner rather than later.
I got blocked for the first time on X yesterday because there was somebody that was all upset about how GW's not communicating when the data slate's going to be out, and he was all mad about hotels are expensive when you go to these events, and it's unfair that they don't let you know what's going on in the game, and people are spending their money and they need to know what's happening. And I said, it's almost as if miniature wargaming is not a good outlet for one's competitive proclivities. Who'da thunk?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it is dice. And there's obviously a lot of strategy. I mean,
Sure.
you've got to know what you're doing. You got to know your army really well. But I mean, there are bad matchups and good matchups. The appeal of playing these games is that every army plays so differently, and I mean, but when you do that, some armies are going to play differently, better than all the other armies.
Yeah, I mean, and you and I come at this from myself and Casey as well, come at it from a different side than you do, where our army is strictly based on, do I like this thing? Is it cool? And then our list building is the same, where we're like, what cool stuff do I want to bring today that adds up to nearly 2,000 points or whatever we're playing? And then we just go and push the stuff around. And the competitive scene, I just always feel, is so silly because at the end of the day, there's so much. I get on the soapbox on terrain a lot because we have this terrain where there are no windows in the 41st millennium, and they're all perfect rectangles, and they all have a particular footprint that if you put a toe in, then you can see through it, and all this kind of silliness, right? And I'm like, that is a big effort to try to minimize variables to create some predictability in the meta and some repeatability in one's list. When we are fundamentally shoving very tiny plastic men around on a table with a tape measure hovered up above, so there's a lot of inherent jank in that system. But then you get guys that really, really get bent out of shape that the data slate may have already been written a month ago, and this whole LVO thing and this whole Necron meta thing may just, blow on for another quarter, which will upset some people after a while. Because I know I wouldn't want to play that more than once.
Yeah, and some people are just really into the competitive stuff. And like you were saying earlier, I do pick my armies on what I think looks cool, especially when I was starting out. My first army, my first army was Knights, Imperial Knights, but that was a 9th, and I was stupid, and I didn't really know how to play, and there was a whole lot going on with Knights. So I ended up switching, and I went to Votann. And Votann was really my first army, and my first time I got really into it.
They were quite good at first.
They were really good at towards the end of 9th. Yeah. Really when they first released, towards the end of 9th, they were a little bit more fair, but they were still, overbearing, overpowerful. But I still didn't really know what I was doing, and I didn't have the key units because they were all sold out. So I didn't really start, especially playing competitively until 10th edition. And now I have 3 armies. And all of them, I got them because I think they look cool. But that said, I do attempt to make good lists. I might not pick just, units I think look cool every time because I do want to, do well when I play. In a, competitive sense. Sometimes if you're playing with a friend, you can just, do whatever you want.
Absolutely. And I think that we should put a disclaimer on this. Us reading off this Necron list and talking about how it slapped, you should not use as a shopping list to go out and buy all this stuff, because by the time you get it, build it, get it ready to play, learn how to play with it, the winds will have changed.
Exactly.
And so that's another aspect to what I'm always harping about on the don't play competitive 40K type topic that I get on is wait a little while and your army will get its time.
Exactly.
Especially if you have to wait a long time for a codex.
Yeah, unless you have tens of thousands of dollars and just buy every army. Every army is going to be good and then bad, and then might be bad for a while, then might eventually be good. It's part of the reason I have 3 armies is so that hopefully one of them is better than the other ones at some point, so I don't just get blown off the table on turn 2. But it's constantly changing, and that's I guess you could see it as a blessing or a curse depending on who you are.
Also, go out and try an RTT around these parts. Shout out to Gamers Haven. These things cost like $20. You guarantee yourself 3 games.
Yeah.
So if you're low on games to play, for $20 you get a full day of fun, and you may get your head kicked in, and that doesn't matter. Sometimes there's a painting contest involved. So if your guys look good, then maybe you can win that. Sometimes they give a reward for best sportsmanship, so you can pick up your models with a giggle, and that'll usually get you one of those.
Yeah, especially at our local game store. We always pay out top 3 in store credit, no matter how many people show up. With these RTTs, especially for 40K and stuff, we normally end up, I think 28 is just how many people our store can hold. So we'll pay out more than that. I'm not exactly sure how many spots we pay, but it's more than top 3. And there's always best painted and best sportsmanship. We'll all go around and vote privately who we like to play against the most, and they'll get some store credit tossed their way too.
I've gone over at one of these things, and I had as much fun as I did once when I got second or third. I forget what I got, but they are fun. Winning isn't everything at these things. It will be to some people, and you just gotta kind of wait that out.
And honestly, I think that's kind of part of the appeal of the hobby. There's so many different aspects to it. The playing competitively, playing casually, but also building, painting, collecting, the lore. There's just so much to it that it can almost just be for anyone who has any interest in these plastic army men.
That's Lane giving you a bit of list analysis. We'll bring him back next time there's a big tournament to get more list analysis and figure out how this works at the highest level of the competition. And then, he'll continue to kick my head in at MCP.
Awesome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Shane.